My Lords, you're probably as surprised as I am to see me winding up from our front bench on this. And the reason for that is because I've never got involved at all, even though being an openly gay man, in the wider debate on gender identity. I haven't got involved in that. I've listened carefully, and I understand on both sides of the debate there are very strong and passionate held views, and there's a lot about personal identity, what it is to be a woman, what it is to be transgender. And I've listened carefully, and I will continue to listen carefully. But I'm afraid that sometimes in this debate we have done exactly what society has done, and that is we have polarised ourselves around an argument which I believe not to be true. So I come to this debate both with a sense of listening, and the debate has raised some quite important issues and some points of law, some points of clarification, which I think are important, and that's this House at its best, listening and debating with each other about points if something's going to become law. But I come here as a human being with a sense of humanity and a sense of decency and a sense of empathy, and trying to do my best as a legislator for our fellow citizens. Now, I'm sure that all Lords have come to the Chamber with that particular view. And I've also come with one principle, and the principle is this, is would I support degrading, hurtful, damaging practices on a fellow human being? And I'm sure all noble Lords would say, no, that's not something that we would want. But I find it quite strange when we then put a label on some individuals, we start, or some people start fraying at the edges because it doesn't fit to a norm which we hold, and we want our norms enforcing on others. And my Lords, that cannot be right. And I have listened to this debate carefully, and I actually threw out what I was going to say, and the noble Lord Lawforsyth has seen me scribbling and on my phone quite a lot during this debate, because I've been trying to respond to what has been said. And I think the argument against my noble friend's bill comes down to 4 reasons. The first one is that there is no need. New laws are not required. Well, in 2021, the government pointed out very clearly that our existing criminal law framework means that conversion therapy is amounting to offences of physical or sexual violence is already illegal in this country. But however, we have identified gaps that allow types of conversion therapy to continue, and have identified that we need to close these gaps. And they go on talking about targeting talking conversion therapy. The government identified that as a potential gap in terms of consent and in terms of some practices. They also said that there is still targeting physical acts conduced in the name of conversion therapy by psychological therapy. Not my words, but the words of the government. They also talked about it potentially being a mitigating factor that judges would have to look at in sentencing. And they also raised other issues, other gaps, to do with potential looking at conversion therapy protection orders, support for victims, restricting promotion and removing profit streams. So there is a gap, my Lords, in terms of what is required, and the government has outlined that. Now, they say a lot of noble Lords have said that the bill is badly drafted. Okay, somebody who supports a bill, let me tell you, I've been in this House quite a lot, and it isn't the first time I've seen badly drafted bills. But the point of the Lords, I keep being told many times by many noble Lords, and I accept it is our role, is to reform and change bills and make them better. And that's what committee stage is about. And there are things that some noble Lords have said today which I think actually that does need exploring further. So the question is this a law that's not required, and the government in 2021 says it is, extra law is required, or is it a matter of principle that this law shouldn't go forward? And that's why I would like to see this go forward to committee stage, so we can explore some of the important issues that many noble lords have identified. Now, another issue that's been raised why this bill shouldn't go ahead is because it will stop medical practice. It will limit what happens. Let me be clear, the bill will not stop any legitimate, registered medical practitioner carrying out activity that's regulated. What it will stop is somebody, before they've even started exploring with that young person, determining that they've already decided that that person's gender or sexual orientation or gender identity is wrong and it needs to be changed. Through the process, as happens now, some will change, some will not change, and the medical practitioners will determine with them what happens, my lords. Not that you come before me and we've predetermined that your sexual orientation or gender identity is wrong. And I think that's really important to understand. And then the final issue is freedom of speech. Well, certain noble lords are shaking their heads. That will have to be explored in committee, if that's the case, with amendments and probing. That's absolutely fine. I believe something different, my lords, and other noble lords feel something different about the bill. So we have to tease that out in committee. And the final one is on freedom of speech. Now, there's been a number of anecdotes, and let me give one anecdote of mine. I was about 4 or 5 years ago at Gay Pride in Sheffield when a number of evangelical Christians turned up with megaphones and soapboxes and suddenly started telling us we were going down to hell and that we were sinful. And there was a big outcry from some members of the LGBT plus community that these people should get the police and off the field that they should go. And much to the anger of a number of the people on the committee, I said, no, they've got every right to tell us. Every right to tell us that we're going to hell. And we've got every right to argue with them why we're not going to hell. They can have that view. The difference would have been, where the police would have been called, and where I believe my noble friend's bill is if they had decided to take me somewhere in the park and try to forcibly do something to make me stop being gay. And they weren't doing that. And it's exactly the same in this bill. It's the motivation of stopping you being gay or having a certain gender identity that also has to be taken into consideration in this bill. So in closing, my lords, I do think that my noble friend's bill may need amending, but I think it's important because what she has done is she has created a space that the government since 2018 says needs to have space to be not just debated but to be legislated on, and that she wants the loopholes in the law, which in 2021 the government also identified, to be closed. And I hope that noble lords today will allow that space to remain and allow in committee stage for us to deal with some of the genuine concerns that have been raised to be ironed out and to stop once and for all this abhorrent practice of conversion therapy that has no place in modern Britain. Yeah.